If you've ever looked around the office and thought to yourself, is this it? Or if you spend too much of your Sunday looking ahead with dread at the week that's coming up, you're not alone. Many people reach a point where they feel like their job is a trap. Somewhere along the way, you've stopped feeling alive at work, but you want freedom and purpose and control. But the idea of leaving feels impossible. It's too risky. It's too difficult. It's too dangerous. But what makes it worse is that silly little business idea that you've got scratching around inside of your brain. You owe it to yourself to at least look at it. Today's guest is Ken Valledy. He was Director of Consumer Connections and Brand Director at Anheuser-Busch, responsible for some of the biggest beer brands in the world. Earlier in his career, he helped Tesco's grow their non-food sector. In 2014, he broke out on his own. He formed a brand marketing agency based in London that helped huge global brands like Procter & Gamble, Mercedes, and Kimberly-Clark realize their potential by connecting them with startups. More recently, he's become a serial coach and mentor, working with several universities and tech startup organizations. He's also the author of The Startup Lexicon, a book which helps demystify the language around startups. Now he spends a lot of his time working with people just like you, helping them break free of their corporate world and start out on their own, just like he did. Ken says that you can take that first baby step today or tomorrow without risking your job or your financial future. He calls it the Great Escape. And today he's going to walk through with us his 5-step R.E.A.C.T framework, which helps people like you move from a position of unsure to confidence in order to start your own business. So if work feels comfortable but flat, if you've got the inkling of a business idea or something you'd rather be doing, and if you're envious of your friends who are playing golf on a Wednesday morning, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Ken, thank you so much for joining us on Build Your Edge today. Now, as I said in the introduction, you've had quite a long career, a very successful career, and talking to you, I know that you reached a point where you thought, is this it? And you wanted to scratch your itch and you wanted to break out and you wanted to do something different. And instead of what a lot of people do, which is just sitting there thinking about it, you actually did something about it. And now that's what you do. You help people break out of the corporate world and begin their own business. So who are we talking to today? Who should be listening to you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me as a guest, Jeremy. Great to be here. Who should be listening to me? Well, I would argue maybe someone like me or someone like me from 10 years ago. And what I mean by that is someone, I would say, midlife, say late 30s onwards, in a very successful position in a job, maybe in a position that they dreamed of when they first graduated, if they went to uni, but something's missing. You've kind of got the ticks in the boxes, you've got the title, you've got the package, you've got the salary, you've got the pension, maybe you've got the car, maybe that still means something now, and you've got all those things that you dreamt of. But there's an itch, there's a kind of a gap. Something's not quite there. As you say, is this it? Is the kind of feeling that a lot of my clients have. So I'm aiming for people who have, on paper, most likely achieved, if not all, 90% of their potential, and technically should be happy, but they're not. And this was the situation I found myself in 10 years ago, where I was in a good position. I was happy where I was. Great industry, beer industry was a great industry to work in. But I was just surviving, and I kind of asked myself the question, can I carry on surviving? I wasn't enjoying the job anymore. I wasn't really enjoying the whole thing, the politics anymore. But for some reason, I just thought that's par for the course. If you do well and you get a good package and a good job, it's a good chance you won't enjoy it, but the money will make up for it. And it doesn't. So I'm aiming for people who have achieved a lot on the outside, but maybe aren't fulfilled on the inside. And they kind of know it, but they don't really know what to do next. And the danger of that is that 1 week disappears into another, 1 month into another, and dare I say 1 year into another, and then another 5 years goes by. And there's lots of people out there like that. And as I say, I was like that myself.
Are they typically people later in their career lives, or could it equally be somebody who's sort of 30 and has been working for, say, 10 years and are also feeling the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, of the clients I work with, most of them are, I would say, late 30s onwards. I've got a couple of clients who are a little bit younger than that, but I would say that the sweet spot is most likely 35, 40, 45, where you've kind of hit a bit of a brick wall. Things are good as I say, things should be good, but you want to do something about it. And there's a worry that you're getting on a little bit or you're getting too old and you can't change. And once that sets in, then you kind of sit in this kind of no man's land for years, just thinking you've got to see it out. So if you're a little bit younger, yes, you can still have these problems, but I would argue in a way it's easier to make a move if you're younger because you've got, dare I say, more of your life ahead of you. And you think, well, I'm going to change career. I'm going to move. I'm going to learn a new skill. I think as you get older, you've got the skills you've chosen the career you're in, and there is a feeling that it's a harder thing to move. So you say stuck, and it's those kind of stuck, for want of a better word, senior leaders I help become unstuck. So age, I would say, does come into it. When it takes years to get to a good position, I would argue still. So it's people who have achieved a lot, but then hit that moment where they think, but this isn't making me feel as happy as I should do.
So they're comfortable. As you've described, they've probably got a really good package and they're comfortable and they could just drift and cruise along, but they're grumpy with it.
Yeah.
And it's identifying that there must be something more for me.
Yeah, the danger is that we always kind of mix our own to a certain extent. So, you mix with other people like you're in similar communities where, I know from my experience, you'd go down the pub with some fathers, when my children were young, and you chat and you say, what do you do? And most people would say, I do this, and it would most likely be a very good job. And they sound a bit fed up with it. You know what it's like. I'll be glad when Friday comes. And that's the general chit chat. So that kind of feeds the myth that is your lot. You've done well. You shouldn't complain. And yes, it's stressful, but that's what you get paid for. Yes, you don't like it. That doesn't matter. You get paid well. And everyone else is in the same boat. So I'm going to sit here and keep my head down and survive. And I'm being a little bit extreme there, but there's no one really, I don't know what it is, the way humans work in groups, but you kind of mix with similar people and you get this myth reinforced that just put up with it. Why are you complaining? My view
Herd
is
mentality.
It is. And I think my view is that for a lot of people, they've still got 10, 15, maybe 20 years left of their career. That's a long time to keep your head down or to get by. And you could argue is maybe a waste of time, maybe a waste of life. So I'm not for one moment saying everyone should do this. It's more towards people who want to move, but they've got a yearning to be their own boss. My ideal client is someone who wants to make that move, but they want to be their own boss.
Let's talk about your story then, because we've already said you were in a really good position. You could have just sat there and cruised it out for the next however many years, but you decided to make a break. Why should people who are listening and thinking, yeah, I get that, I see myself in that situation, why should they listen to you?
Well, for one, I made the break and what happened to me was I was in AB InBev. I was in a senior role there. I was traveling most weeks. And two small things happened, really small things that made me see the light. One was I was advised by my boss that I would need to travel more to get to the next level. And that would be relocate with the family to go to another country for 2 years and relocate again. And I didn't really want that. I was traveling 2 to 3 days a week as it was. And that made me realize that I can't stay at that company any longer, really. I can dodge the bullet, but eventually I'm going to get offered a job I don't want to take. And that was a shock. And then after that, I remember reading about 2 or 3 weeks later, an article about the startup scene in East London, in Shoreditch. And I thought, wow, those people have got a different outlook to work and life than I have as a corporate person. So I took it upon myself to meet some startups. I met a lovely guy called Johnny Grubin, who's still going now, a very successful company called SoPost. And after coming away from the meeting with Johnny, I thought, so much more invigorating, enjoyable talking to people like Johnny who have got this bright future and they want to, steer their own course. I just thought I can't stay where I am. I've got to get out of AB InBev. I want to work with people like that. So what can I do? And it was luck, really. I kind of realized that people like Johnny needed to talk to large companies to help grow his startup, and large companies, the area I was in at the time, had no idea what startups were doing. So I jumped to be like a connector initially. So I would get briefs from large corporations, and I would go and find out what's happening in the startup world for them and try and join them together to work together. So to be honest, 1 month before I made the jump, I was most likely surviving and not realizing it. Once I was told by my boss I'd have to travel more, I realized I had to reflect and take stock. And then I met Johnny and some other startups 2 weeks later. And then I made the mad, insightful, inspiring decision to jump. And I did. And that was 11 years ago. Honestly, the best thing I've ever done. Never looks like going back to the corporate world. And it made me see the light that you do have a choice. So if you are, as I said, if you are a little bit unfulfilled with your job and you always wanted to give it a go being your own boss, you can do that. You don't have to jump like I did completely. You can do a side hustle, but you can do it. You can make those first few steps. You do have a choice. And I think those two things for me, my boss's feedback and meeting a startup, made me realize that I had a choice and there was an option for me. If that hadn't happened, I may still be at AB InBev now, just getting by.
And grumpy. Yeah, yeah.
And a very grumpy person, yeah.
So presumably, though, some of the people that we are trying to talk to today
Yeah.
are in that comfortable position, and every month the salary comes in and they go on lovely holidays and
Yep.
it's risk-free.
Yeah.
It sounds like what you're suggesting to them is getting them right out of their comfort zone, taking risks, and it sounds quite dangerous.
It
What would
does.
you say to those people who are thinking, I like the sound of what Ken is saying, but it sounds nuts and it does not apply to me?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you don't have to take a risk. This is the thing. You don't have to leave your job completely, say goodbye to the package, say goodbye to the title, say goodbye to that safety net, and start your own thing overnight. You can do that. Some of my clients have done that, but I would suggest that isn't maybe the right way for everyone. So you can start a side hustle. So I have clients now who are in senior positions in large companies who want to either build an app or do something completely different. And they put, say, a Saturday morning or a few hours on a Wednesday or whatever it may be into researching and slowly building this side hustle. They still keep doing their job. They still get that monthly pay. But if that side hustle works, it gets slightly bigger. And then they might want to, say, go down to 4 days a week potentially. Or they might think, I've got to put more time. I'm going to have to leave to focus on the side hustle full time. But that can take as long as is comfortable for an individual person. So you don't have to. The risk is actually thinking, I'm going to research and I'm going to think about starting from working for myself. It's a mental shift. I don't think it's a financial risk if you do a side hustle. I'm not saying give 2 days up and try and do your day job as well. You can find time just to get the ball rolling. And the most important thing is to get the ball rolling. So yes, you are doing something different, but I think the uncomfortable side of it is just changing direction somewhat. Even if you keep your job going, it's that, I'm going to think about this a bit more now. I'm going to think about what I want to do. What research do I need to do? Is anyone else doing it? And it's that I think people find uncomfortable. But once you start moving in that area, I think it actually becomes, it's a nice counter to your day job. It's something you look forward to doing. Lots of my clients really look forward to doing further research, going to events, finding out more about this market they may get involved in with their side hustle. And it keeps them going. It actually reinvigorates them. So everything's a risk, but I would argue this can be de-risked by doing it, starting as a side hustle. As I
And
say,
what happens when my boss finds out that I've got a side hustle, that I'm spending all my weekend building stuff and going out, and I'm almost quite distracted now by this shiny new thing over here when I should be focusing fully on my job?
Well, clients I know doing side hustles generally tell their boss. They've got quite an open relationship with their saying and doing this. Most of the side hustles may be something different or something related to what they're doing, but they tell their boss. I would argue if you're doing something at weekends, I would still say that's your business. No one else needs to know about that. But you can find a way. I think it's a client of mine who's been a client for some time now did like 1 hour, 2 hours on a Wednesday researching the market, and he went to one event a month and he slowly built it up. So by the time where he is now, where he's still working full time, but this side hustle's gathering pace and momentum and getting really exciting, and he's starting to get some revenue in for it. He's now thinking, I'm going to give it another 6 months, 12 months, and I might jump. But in that time, he started to build safety nets, financial safety nets, and everything. So if he does, when he does make that transition, he's kind of worked it all out, should we say? So I always say that a lot of people, if there's one reason why they should stay in a job and 99 reasons why they shouldn't, and they should do something different, they still hold on to that one reason. And that's the danger, because it's change. You'd rather stay where you are for one reason. It could be my next appraisal in 9 months' time, I may get that promotion. It could be I'm going to wait and see if the bonuses go up next year, so I'll wait for that. And it could be 99 reasons why they should go. Don't like the job, don't like my boss, getting fed up with the pressures, traveling too much. But that one reason, everything's put on that. So I'm not saying that's necessarily wrong. I'm just saying as you get older, I believe you get wiser. And part of that is seeing you do have a choice. And if you break down what I do, my first chats with the client is, here's what I think your choice is and how do you want to play it? I think it's just opening people's minds to they have an option.
And what do your clients experience? So you get them over that little hump, that little, as you say, 99 reasons why I should go, but 101 why I should stay. And you talk to them and you help them see beyond that. And they say, all right, I'm going to start to do something. What do they begin to experience?
Well, the amazing thing is, the first thing I do when I do these 15, 20-minute free chats at the start where I just chat about what I do and what they're doing. And I ask them to explain or describe to me how they find work. And maybe because they don't know me, generally they start with a negative and it carries on. And then they finish with...
Are they suspicious and sort of cautious of you because...
No. I mean, because I suppose I've been in the same position, and I'm not saying they need to do it. I really am not saying, I'm not anti-corporate at all. But if they really dislike their job, they generally will go through what they don't like about it. And with all due respect, same things generally come up. And then they say, but I've got this idea here. And just me helping them put some flesh on that idea verbally and saying, right, well, I think you could do something here. Or maybe if you thought about this. If they then want to go on and I do workshops and everything, we can start actually putting some flesh on the bones. This is all theoretical, but there are some practical things you can do, which I know we'll cover later with my R.E.A.C.T model. But none of this is leave your job, pay thousands of pounds and you're off. It's just trying to get it out the back of your head, which is where most ideas and wishes come from, out into the open, and just put some meat on the bones. And there's some really small things that people do, which I believe are game changing mentally for them. So I'll give you one now. When I started my own business, the biggest thing I did, which made me realize I'd moved, was talking to friends and family about wanting to start my own business. And I remember saying to a peer of mine, I'm thinking of starting my own business in this. And hearing myself say, I am thinking of starting my own business, was a game changer. I never looked back after that. But if I didn't say that and I just kept it down to squirreling away, writing stuff down, my day job would get in the way. But once you get it out, and getting it out is literally talking to trusted colleagues or peers or family about it, that's a massive step. And I see it in my clients. It's like, wow, yeah, what else do I need to do now? It's a bit like opening up to people makes a massive difference. You don't have to bring revenue in straight away. You don't have to, that's all the stuff you read about, but just literally mentally moving. A lot of it is about opening up and hearing yourself say, I am thinking of starting my own thing. Even if it's a side hustle, just saying those words. Small
I
thing.
would imagine that, the one reason why I should stay and the 99 reasons why I should go, one of the most alarming things must be sitting there with a bit of an idea that you never, ever explore. And it just sits in the back of your head for 10 years.
Yep.
And then you look back and go, I should have done that.
Yeah. And I don't think, with all due respect, corporate people are trained to think like an entrepreneur. I wasn't. So if someone's got an idea and you were to say to them now, right, who's your market? How are you going to do it? How are you going to be different? What's your USP? I don't necessarily think a lot of senior leaders are trained to think like that. They're so focused on the day job. So I help just start to put some layers on the idea. Now, what's the problem you're solving? Who's your audience? What makes you different? Just general stuff like that. And we can start to finesse the idea. If you just leave it and think one day I'm going to start a business around this idea, it's never going to happen, because you need a plan, like anything. And also I think life gets in the way, and I'm never one for saying, start a business within 48 hours and trade. I mean, it might take 2 or 3 months moving before you do something, but it's the 0 to 1. The first 1 or 2 steps are the crucial ones. And what I try and do is, one, offer support and give them some things to think about just to start making this thing a bit more tangible. And then if we get past that stage, we go on to things like, let's get some pitch decks put together and let's think about what events you can go to and all that kind of stuff. But the very start is discussing the idea, giving some feedback, trying to offer some help. And I've never had, a client come up with an idea where I think, well, that's an awful idea. Most people have a good idea. It just needs a bit of finessing. And I think they're quite surprised when I talk to them. I don't say, right, here's 100 templates to fill out. Do this, do that, and launch next Friday. I just say, well, okay, well, let's think about the idea. First of all, you've got to go and talk to someone about it, get it out of your head. And we go through small steps like that, which I think are very liberating. And as I say, keep your day job, work your day job in whatever way you want to do it. Keep your day job. Don't put yourself under immense pressure by just saying, I'm going to leave in 6 months. You can do that, but if you don't have to, don't, I would argue. And then go from there. So it's those first few steps that are crucial.
Perhaps we can talk through an example. I mean, maybe you don't want to share a name or anything, but if you can just talk generally about a typical sort of customer that comes to you and says, Ken, I've got this thing in the back of my head and I'm a bit grumpy at work and I'd like to scratch this itch. Can you give an example of someone who's come to you with that and how it's worked out?
Yeah. So I had a client recently who had actually was made redundant. And they were in that position where they had a nice package. They were mid-40s in a very senior position for an aviation company and wanted to do something in consulting. Similar to what they were doing, but slightly different. And on one side, they were kind of held back a bit by the package because they had a nice package and they could stay like that for some months. And on the other side, they wanted to do something. And they've always wanted to work for themselves. So the first thing we did, we went through the idea and I started questioning bits of it in a very positive way. Like, well, have you thought of this? This might be similar to this. And then I helped them set out a plan of what events they can start going to. So if there's events, they lived in just outside London, if there's events they can go to, which they can meet maybe the community they're going to be part of. If there's research they can do, I help direct them to what they should maybe look into. If there's newsletters or things they subscribe to get information about their market. And also what I offer to my clients is, I've got a pretty good network over 11 years. So from the word go, if I know someone they should talk to, I can introduce them. So after one workshop with me, the client had a couple of events to potentially go to, a couple of newsletters to sign up to, and 2 introductions from me. And then when we next met 30 days later, about a month later, they were off. They still, they still had their life, children, everything, but they were off. They were going to go to another event. They'd met someone else. They were thinking about a pitch deck. They were thinking about changing their offering, and they were off. And you could just see it that they'd moved. And it's at 0 to 1. So I don't hold people's hands. I don't launch products with people. I don't run businesses with people. What I do really is I try and avoid templates. I just say, right, here's some options I think you should do. And we go through this model I've got. And if I can introduce people or steer them towards other people who can help them or events they should go to, it's just getting out there and making a difference. And that person I mentioned is now, I believe, very close to getting their first client. Right. But they've got everything they need. They've got the clear offering. They've got a pitch deck. They've obviously registered a company, got a bank account, all these kind of things you need. And they can trade at a speed they want to trade at. And they're in a different place completely from what they were 4 or 5 months ago, where, yes, they were financially okay, but felt like they were stuck.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit of a guide. I play on my network. I introduce people to, I shortcut things for people rather than trying to go to Google and say, I want to start a business. What do I do? I kind of give them the 5 things you need to do. Here's some events they should go to. Let me see if I can introduce you to people. I kind of fast track it for them, but also give them my impartial advice on maybe what I would do if I was in their situation. Yeah. That's what it is really. It's quite straightforward. It's just getting people to move.
Let's get into your model that you've left behind now. Now, like every guest, you are leaving behind a model that anybody who's listening can pick up. They can go through it this afternoon and they can start to use it.
Yep.
Yours is something that you work with your new and your potential customers who are thinking of, getting into their own thing or making a break. And it's the model that you use with them to help them understand what the next steps are. Before we go through the 5 steps, perhaps you can just tell us at a high level what the R.E.A.C.T model is.
So the R.E.A.C.T model is a process that helps you go from 0 to 1. It doesn't, I think the total cost, if you went through each of them, would be about 150 quid. if you go through each of the stages. It's not a lot of money, but you will make a massive move if you go through the React model. So if you start with 0, as in the people we're describing, good role, but really unfulfilled. I want to be my own boss, but where do I start? By the end of going through the React model, you know exactly what you're doing. You've got a plan of attack for actually building up your idea, putting more meat on the bones, and you've got a clear, should we say, next steps towards being an entrepreneur, be it in 6 months, 3 months, 1 year, whatever it may be that's right for you. The React model is almost like moving you around in your current job, moving you around. So you move and eventually you stand up and do something. It's like you're stuck in your
Right.
job. I call it the corporate train. You're stuck on the corporate train. This React model gets you up off your seat. It doesn't mean you jump the job, leave the job, as I said earlier, but it's the first few steps, very simple, but can be quite tough for people, but very simple to do and very cheap to do, but it gets you moving. And it's all about momentum.
Okay. 5 steps.
Five
It's
steps.
called the R.E.A.C.T model because there are 5 letters.
There
The
are.
first letter is
No,
the first letter is R, which stands for reach out.
yeah. So
Why is that important? What does that mean?
reach out is the simplest thing to do technically, and I think it's the biggest mindset shifter. So reach out is what I said earlier. Is actually reach out to a colleague, a peer, or a friend, 1 or 2 of them, meet up, maybe have a coffee, a beer, and just give them 15, 20 minutes about your idea. So that's where you say, I wouldn't mind getting your view on this. I am thinking of starting my own business. And then that's not just that. Well done. Thank you very much. What do you think of the football last night? Actually talk about your idea, why you want to do it and what you're thinking. It doesn't have to be complete, but just talk about it. The more you talk about it, the more you make that mindset change. So reach out is be brave enough to tell someone. Now, obviously I would say always tell your partner first, whatever. This is outside of your partner, but I would say this is friends, peers, people you trust, ex-colleagues, colleagues. This is actually just starting to verbalize what you're thinking. And it's a massive game changer. And it sounds really simple. I did it for 2 or 3 of my colleagues, and I was a different person at the end of those meetings. So it's simple, free. A part might cost you a beer or a coffee, but go out and reach out and talk to people. So that's the R. That's the first.
So, but is there not a concern here that if I have got a brilliant idea,
Yeah.
and I go and start to talk to people about it and share it, that they're going to steal my idea and do it instead of me?
Yeah, there's a chance, but it will never happen. I can honestly say that. I mean, I might be wrong, but one person I spoke to, first of all, said exactly that. They said, Ken, they said, Ken, I don't think that's a great idea. And also someone could copy it. So I thought, okay, thanks for your feedback, but I'm still doing it. No one's got the time to even, start to copy it, because most people you'll talk to will be like you. And you might be lucky enough to know another entrepreneur, but most people are so stuck in their lane with their jobs, their careers, life, everything. They're not going to say, I'm going to put everything on hold now and I'm going to think about what Ken's told me. I'm going to try and copy it, work out where he is at the moment, get ahead of him. It doesn't happen. When I used to work in marketing, I remember this is the days we used to do big adverts, and people were worried it might get out to the competition before, say, the radio, TV, press, whatever it was, internet, Facebook ads launched. And I think, well, no one is going to copy it overnight. So we are paranoid that people copy it. I honestly believe if you are talking to someone about the idea, you're ahead of them anyway. And most people just haven't got the time or the inclination. Or if they're your friend, I would argue it wouldn't be a very good friend if they literally carbon copied what you've done ahead of you. So I understand the concern, but you're only giving them a rough idea what you're doing. You're not giving them a business plan. You're not giving all the costings, because you might not be at that stage, but it's just getting out of your head and obviously take into account what they say. But the benefit is more hearing yourself say something versus the feedback.
And I guess the big difference is you have taken the step, you've got the inertia, you're actually doing something about it instead of just sitting there. So even if you share it with somebody, they don't have that same inertia as you. They're just going to be stuck.
Absolutely. You've built you don't realize it, but thinking about it, making that first step, talking to someone, you've already put some small steps in. And as I say, they're the hard ones. So you might get someone goes home to their partner saying, yes, I bumped into Ken. Believe it or not, he's doing this. I think that's a really good idea. Maybe I should do that. But the next morning, that person's into the swing of work or whatever, and it moves on. Now, there's always a chance, but I would say very, very unlikely.
And should I be worried that, I reach out to you, Ken, and say, Ken, I've got this idea and I'd love to chat it through with you. I share my idea and you look at me and laugh and just say, that's such a stupid idea. What are you thinking of, Jeremy? You're nuts.
Yeah. You know what? As I say, one of the people I first spoke to was quite dismissive of my idea. For me personally, that just made me want to do it even more. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it made me more stubborn and dig my heels in. But I listened to the feedback. I just didn't necessarily agree with it. So it's someone might say you're nuts, but I would actually argue they may be right. So you might have to rethink, but don't take it personally. It's not about the details, it's about just talking about this idea. The other thing is, dare I say, they may actually be a little bit envious, a bit jealous that you're doing something and they should be doing the same. And they don't want to admit it. And dare I say, ego is pride, everything, and people don't want to admit it. So it's quite easy to say, oh, I think that's mad. And I actually would put my house on it that when I mentioned to friends, family, wider family, when I actually left to start my own thing, I reckon I was a talk of the town for about a month in the family and wider family.
Nutty Ken. He's just.
And he had a good industry. You know what he's doing now? He's joining people up. I think he's got mad. I don't know what they're going to do for paying the mortgage. I think he's at a moment, whatever.
Right, yeah, midlife crisis.
I always thought he was a little bit unusual, all this kind of stuff. And you know what? I didn't hear any of that because once you get past go, you're off and you're focusing. But you're going to
presumably, you need to talk to a few people to get some proper feedback. So how many people should you talk to? And what happens if, I don't know what the number is, let's say it's 5. If all 5 of them say, that's a crazy idea, do you still push through or do you listen to that?
Well, I would argue just 2 to 3. I think if you go to 4, 5, 6, 7, you're almost going too far. Even if it's just 1, I think is better than nothing. But I would say 2 to 3 is quite good. Pick different people, and just say to them it's a very rough idea. I don't think you've got enough when you tell them. Most of my clients haven't got enough for there to be really, really bad feedback coming back. It's not like, here is my plan. I'm going to make £1 million by next month. I'm going to be a multimillionaire by next year. I'm going to have a yacht 3 years later. These are just ideas people have got. You can say, I haven't really worked this out yet, but I'm thinking of doing this. A lot of, obviously, if they're my clients and we've had a chat before they go ahead and do this R.E.A.C.T model, I'd like to think we've finessed it a little bit in our chat. It doesn't mean that it's perfect, but it's given them a bit more.
So they're not going to their people raw. You've primed them a bit and helped them think it through and how to present it and how to structure it.
Yes, and absolutely, just to be a bit more confident of talking about it. So it's, you're going to get some feedback, but I would take it, listen to it, make a decision around it. But I've not had anyone yet I've worked with who's come back and said, I'm not going to do it anymore because I've been absolutely slammed by everyone. It's more people have been quite supportive, or people are a bit in disbelief. I'm thinking of leaving, even if I'm staying initially. It's more that is the feedback.
Yeah. So I've taken that first step. I've realized I've got something that I want to explore. I've spent some time talking to you. Yeah. And now I've reached out to a couple of friends, 2, 3 friends, and I've shared the idea with them to get their feedback. I'm going to do this. Yep. The next thing is E, which is attend events. Yes. Why is that important?
Well, this is really important. This is sometimes the hardest part of the R.E.A.C.T model for a lot of my clients. So E is actually getting out there and attending some events. I'm not talking, my own view, going to huge conferences. I don't actually think they deliver. I'm talking, if you now wanted to be say now you wanted to build a app in the music industry and it's all around musicians and everything, is to try and find events where there's panels talking about the future of music, future musicians. If you wanted to be a consultant in AI in a very specific area, go to panels. There'll be loads of them at the moment talking about AI. Go to small focused events where the area you're focused on could be relevant. Go along. Usually most of these events are free. In London, cities, go along to the event, sit there, listen to the panel. And then afterwards, when you chat to people and they say, what do? You can say again, I'm thinking of doing this. You don't have to have a finished product. But what you're doing now is the R was talking to people now is actually going out there and getting a feel for the area and the market and the people in that market that you could be working with. And in some cases, working as a competition too. But you've got to get out there and you've got to meet people and you've got to see your future community or market. And that's what the E is about. Go to events and get out there. This, for a lot of my clients, this is really tough because, with all due respect to some of them, in the past, they had a title and a job. So if they went to a corporate networking event, people will gather around them because of who they are. I'm being unfair, but that's most likely.
Yeah, there's someone though. I get it. Yeah.
There's someone. People talk to them, people laugh at their jokes, whatever it may be. going to an event and saying, I am now, instead of, in my case, Ken Valledy, director of this in the past, I'm now Ken Valledy and I'm starting this business. That feels quite raw. That feels quite exposed. You feel a bit like, am I good enough if these people have already got things going? And that's where a lot of my clients struggle. This whole thing around networking and being present. But it's absolutely crucial. I still believe, even in today's world of technology, you can't 100% rely on, messages, LinkedIn and everything. You've got to go out there and be known. And don't.
So who am I looking for when I go to these events? Am I looking for more sounding boards? Am I looking for potential customers? Am I looking for partners? Am I looking for investors,
Yep.
mentors? Who am I looking for when I go to those events?
First 2 or 3 events, I would say you're not looking for anyone. I'll be honest. So you're going along. It's a subject that you've got an interest in because you want to build a business in this area. Don't put pressure on yourself. Go along, listen to whatever the panel is, whatever the discussion is. Usually it's panels. When they have the networking afterwards, chat to people. Have an open brain. Don't go there with, I've got to get a new business client. I've got to get more knowledge. Just go there and think, well, I'm learning. This is almost like desk research, but on my feet. This is real life face-to-face research. Talk
Got
to
it.
people, express what you're doing, relax. And you never know, and I found this when I started doing this all those years ago, is people say, oh, that's really interesting. You should have a chat with so-and-so because they're in a similar area. Or actually, you should come to this event next week because they're talking about that. The more people you talk to with this, I would say, informal approach, rather than going there and putting huge pressure on yourself, the more you take it easy, should we say, the more options that come from each event you go to. And over time, not only do you build knowledge up, Jeremy, about your idea, and you might tweak it a little bit as a result of that, but also you start to build the all-important network.
Yeah.
And I know when I first started, people said, oh, I met this chap, ex-beer marketing guy, and now he's looking to connect corporates and startups together. But even though that's not the words I'd like to use, I was almost getting an identity in the community. And it's amazing. If you're quite succinct to what you're looking to do, people would say, oh, I bumped into this chap or this lady the other day, they're ex-corporate, but they're thinking of doing this. So all of a sudden, there's kind of, I would say, dare I say, marketing happening for you.
Yeah. Someone taught me a long time ago, and I've always stuck by it, which is when it comes to networking, it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Yep.
And by stepping out into those events, you're exposing yourself to the risk of making those connections where, as you describe, people will go and talk about it and say, oh, yeah. This person, go talk.
Yeah. One big difference between the startup world and the corporate world is people, I believe, are more willing to help in the startup world. So if you go to someone and say, I've got an idea and this is what I'm working on at the moment. So if you went to a networking event next week and someone said, as they do, what do you do? And you say, I'm ex Nike, I'm now looking to do a side hustle in this area. Most people say, oh, so that's interesting. So, what is it in? What are you looking to do here? I might better help you. People are much more open. When you go to a corporate networking event, people are very kind of, I'm this, I'm a big title, and you don't say too much. You don't want to give it away to the competition. And it's very closed and it's very kind of, in a way, quite transactional, and it's not that enjoyable. When you're going out to a startup event or you're trying to build your own business, networking, I think, is much more let it flow, chat to people, and over time you will build awareness up for what you're doing. But that happens over time. I would say just go along and enjoy. One thing I got was the more startup events I went to at the start, I really thought, wow, this is amazing. I mean, I'm at a panel in London. I'm having at the time, I think, a couple of beers and a pizza. I want to chat to that person afterwards. That panel was really interesting. That made me think a bit about this. I really enjoyed that. And as I got on the train back out home, I thought, God, I don't mind this. Rather than staying late in the office or working late for, AB InBev as it was in my case, I actually felt like I was out doing something exciting. And so much so that I still go to 1 or 2 events a week, 11 years later. I always go to an event, at least one every week, because I think it energizes me and I'm always learning something and I always meet interesting people.
And we met at an event.
We did.
We met at a random conversation and we got talking and said, you should come on the show. So yes, exactly. It works. And now the A part of R.E.A.C.T is assess the market.
Yeah.
So I guess that you're now out in the bigger world and you're beginning to talk to people and soak up information.
Yeah.
Is this where you're now thinking, okay, what does the market look like?
Yeah, you can do, without confusing everyone, you can do the R, the E and the A together, but I would say do the R first and the E and the A you can do together, one before the other. But So the A is assess, research the market. This is a bit of desk research. So if you want to be a consultant in helping older people understand AI, go in, Google AI, whatever it may be, and see who else is doing it. If there's gaps in the market, what the kind of the feel is for it. And that's assessing the market. This is your good old fashioned searching and putting an hour aside each week just to get an idea that when you do go into this market, you're quite familiar with it. What you don't want to do is jump straight in and find out there's 15 people doing exactly the same thing. That wouldn't be a good start. So it's your good old fashioned desk research or might be ChatGPT now, whatever it may be. Just do some research into it. And that research may throw up some events you can go to as part of the E. So you can do them parallel. A lot of my clients will put an hour aside on, say, a Thursday, Wednesday, whatever, to do some research, and they just keep looking into things, and it gets more. They get more into it, so they're doing it all the time. They're always looking into things. So it's good old fashioned, a little bit of research. Like most things, don't overdo it. Don't spend 5 years researching the market, because even if you think it's perfect, it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. So just get an idea if anyone's out there. When I first did it, I just searched for people who are trying to connect corporates and startups together. There wasn't a lot of the time, so I thought, well, that's interesting. I found people doing similar things, but not quite the same. And I looked into how they charge. So I got an idea of pricing, just some, for want of a better word, nosing around, getting a feel for this new world, this new market you're going into. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but you've got to do it.
And it's increasingly difficult to come up with something groundbreakingly original and different and unique. And actually, flavors of a different product or service are okay. You can look around, and actually the presence of, if you're the only person doing something, you've got to create a whole new market. And that is more difficult
Absolutely.
than going into a market that exists and being a bit, having a differentiation and being a bit different.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I think there's always, in a big marketplace, there's room for many people to play in it. And I think the key is, and this is a key thing, if there's one learning I've got from working with my clients, is this, I say to them, niche everything down. So so if someone comes up to me now and says, are you a career coach? I say, no, I'm not a career coach.
Mm-hmm.
I help people in midlife who are in good jobs, who are thinking of starting their own business, but don't know where to start. I help them make that transition.
Yeah.
I'm not a career coach. I don't help graduates. I'm very clear on my market. And I say to my clients, do exactly the same. So when you do that, by a bit of research, you might see there's people out there doing a similar thing. So you might want to niche a bit, or in a way, just have something slightly different. And sometimes it's quite an easy thing to do. But everyone's unique. Your backstory and what you bring is unique as well. So don't look at it and think, oh, there's someone else doing a similar thing, I'm not going to do it. Investigate a bit further. And if you're ballsy enough, and I did this, reach out to them and say, can we have a chat?
Yeah.
And
what do they say? So let's say you and me are in the similar thing. I'm already doing something very close, and you ping me and say, could we have a chat? Am I not now cautious, defensive, nervous? Am I not going to reject you?
You might do. I do it even now. So the people doing similar things to me now, I say to have a chat and we just compare notes. And we usually find, I can't think of anything where I've actually spoken to someone who's copying or the same as me completely, but we usually find we're slightly different. It might look similar on LinkedIn or the websites, but when you chat to them, you realize that they're doing something slightly different. So you say, well, I'm actually over here a bit more, you're there. And then you get to that point where if you do build a good relationship up, they say, well, I can pass the people over to you, you pass them over to me. It's not quite. So the only thing you're going to lose is 30 minutes of your time and maybe someone who's a little bit protective. So what? Fine.
Mm-hmm.
You might get someone to say, well, actually, we could complement each other. I've actually done work before where I'm actually on the back of someone's offering and they're the same with me. So we actually go together for certain clients. So this takes a bit of time, but be confident enough to actually reach out to potential competitors and have a chat.
Right.
That's tough to do that.
And then the C, the fourth letter, sounds like it's getting more serious because
now
it's...
So the R, the E, and the A are talking, meeting people, and doing a bit of research. Once you get to the C and the T, it's getting a bit serious. But again, not complicated. So the C, there's two meanings to C. One is compliance, and the other one is co-founder. So compliance is the paperwork. Now, if you Google, what do I need to do to start a business, especially in the UK, you may be bombarded with what you need to do. And you think, I can't be bothered. But you've got to do it. So I go through with my clients the things they need to do, which is think of a name, register a company, open a business bank account, designing an invoice, template, letterheaded paper, all this kind of stuff they need to do. So if and when, or hopefully when clients come through, they're ready to trade. And this, I don't think takes too long. And this is where it costs, I don't know, they just want to say about 150, 160 pounds to register a company, maybe less now. There's always deals on from different people. But the most important thing you do now is, right, you've spoken to people, you think there's a market now, get a company name and register it. That's part of that compliance, I say, paperwork to do. And that's a
And
massive...
do I need a brand and a logo and a website and even a van with my name on the side? I mean,
No,
how far down that?
no, you don't. I would suggest the most important thing is getting a name and registering it. You can always change the name. Just get a name and register it. And you can do the logo, and you can do the website, and you can do your Insta pages, whatever it is you want to do. Have a van. You can do that later.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If you wait for that, you're just kind of stuck in this limbo
Yeah,
land. I would say register a
absolutely.
company. And this registering company is that second moment, I think, where people think, I'm doing this now. So the first one is when they chat to people and they say, I am thinking of doing this. That's a game changer.
Yep.
This, once you register a company, then, you say, wow, I now own a company. Now, the
I'm
company's
in business. I'm real.
I've got a business. I own this company. I am the owner of it, co-owner of it, whatever it may be.
I'm a founder.
I'm a founder, and that feels real. And I'm not saying you can't go back from that, but you've now definitely crossed that line. And it's not cost you a lot of money, but it's legit. You've got a company name. From that, you can get a business bank account, which is quite simple now with the smaller banks. And you're ready. You're ready to trade. Now, if you want to pull the levers straight away and start getting business, great. If you want to hold off for a couple of months because it's a lot on at work, whatever it may be, but you've got everything ready then. So the compliance is the paperwork. And the other one, which I threw in very recently, is a co-founder. So a lot of people have this assumption that when you start a business, you start it on your own, and as you get bigger, you get a co-founder. Now, technically, that's what I did, but that isn't the way that you have to do it. I know a lot of people who have started businesses with someone else, and if they hadn't found that other person or considered working with someone else, they never would have started. So
Yeah.
let's say now, for example, you want to build a business and you want to build a piece of tech, and you're the technical person building it, but you need someone to kind of do the marketing and the front end of it all. You might be able to do it, but you want to focus on the tech. So always have a think generally about, do you need a co-founder? And there's books written on co-founders and what you should look for and what you shouldn't do and everything. But just have a think about co-founder. So if you're kind of chomping at the bit, but it still feels like a big step, it still feels like, is this right? Am I doing the right thing? An answer may be, is there someone who's in the same boat as me who might want to jump in and do it with me? And that could be the release you need to say, right, let's do it. So it might be one of the people you've spoken to. It might be people you've met at an event. Now, don't jump straight in. Don't just say, I met them once, so they're going to be a co-founder, because it's a big commitment.
Mm-hmm.
But don't dismiss the idea that you've got to be on your own. Sometimes finding the co-founder with a specific skill can be that unlocking experience that gets you off past 0 to 1.
So having a co-founder sounds like you're going to get somebody who is complementary to you. Maybe you help fire each other up and keep each other going, but at the same time, you're giving stuff away. I mean, very simplistically, if you've got a company that's worth 150 quid, because that's how much it costs to start it, you're kind of giving half of that away. And as you grow, you've given half of everything away.
Yeah.
How do I balance that in my brain? How do I make sure that having a co-founder is a positive thing for me?
Okay, so you're absolutely right. So everything's halved. It doesn't have to be. Some co-founders have
of course.
But let's assume that everything's halved. And let's assume you've done your due diligence and you found the right person, or you think you don't just jump straight in with someone. So you think the right person, you've had a chat about it with someone, and you've gone through a few rounds of discussions, and you form a company together. Yes, you're going to share any revenue, but what you get from it as a positive is you can make decisions together, because it's quite lonely being founder sometimes. So you've got someone you can sit down with, you can work out what the next steps are going to be for the business. You line together, you do that, I do this. So you're halving the workload. You also can, if there's kind of a really big decision to make, it's quite nice to have someone else's viewpoint. People have different skills, so they see red flags quicker than maybe you would, and vice versa. So you've got this extra pair of eyes looking out to the future, trying to guide the business to a good place. And I'd also argue, to a certain extent, some people find it really good to actually have someone else and just meet at the end of the week or wherever it may be and say, how did this week go? And it feels like it's a business. It feels like it's not all on them. And there's someone else sharing the burden with them, and just as excited as they are about where it's going. So it's not all great, and there's lots of what's the word? You got trade off, you might if you make money, you got to share it, but at the same time, you might need a co-founder to go through that kind of management, the way you work together to actually get revenue in to share. So
Yeah, exactly that.
give you one
Yeah,
step.
you
No,
having that co-founder might be the difference between actually having some money to share and not
yeah,
having any money.
yeah, absolutely right. And it's not just co-founder. It could be that someone might come do some freelance work for you. So you need to, it doesn't have
Yep.
to be a co-founder straight away. They could be a contractor. But don't think I'm too small. I've got to be on my own now, because that work I did that for a couple of years, no problem. But it doesn't mean it's right for everyone. So look outward for people to help you, and it might be the big step of a co-founder. But my point is, don't dismiss it. Don't think you have to
Yep.
be 5 years down the line before you get a co-founder. So that's
Okay.
the C really: compliance, the paperwork you got to do, and consider. It might be a very quick nod on one, but consider a co-founder.
Right. So the C brings me to the point really now where I've validated my idea. I'm
Yeah.
now actually in business.
Hmm.
The T stands for understand
Yes.
terminology.
So this is the final left field blocker, and what I mean by this, you're exactly right. So by the time we get to T, you've legally owned the business. You have a business bank account. It might be you and a co-founder, but everything's in place for you to potentially start trading. You still have to do other things, but you're ready to trade.
Yep.
You know, you might have to pitch deck and things like that, but you know, you're there. You're ready. If someone phones you up and says, "I'd like you to work with me on this. How much is your rate? Can we start tomorrow?" You can't say, "Oh no, I haven't got a business account," or "I haven't got a." You're ready. What I found, and what I find with some founders that I work with, 'cause I do quite a lot of mentoring still in the startup world, is the terminology you're going to hit when you start your own business and you go in circles of people who run their own business will blow your mind. So for our corporate listeners out there, as you know, the corporate world had so many words and phrases, some very relevant to the company itself, some general. And AB InBev had hundreds. I could have written a book called the AB InBev Lexicon. So when I first went into the startup world, I was bombarded by what's your burn rate, what's your run rate,
Mm-hmm.
are you going
EBITDA.
to, yeah, EBITDA? Are you going to go to an accelerator or an incubator? I know someone who's doing convertible notes. What do you think about that? What do you think about this dilution? Are you going to do this? Are you going to? I might do a vesting deal. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've made a big mistake here. I've walked into this world and I don't know what they're talking about. Now I was quite lucky. I was a marketing guy, so maybe I was a bit egotistical, and I winged it and looked things up afterwards. But I realised that for every one person who pushed through like me and kind of winged it, there'd be a lot of people who think it's not for me. And that's a bit of a thing of mine. I want people who are a good business idea to see it through. So what I say to people is, or what I did, should I say, Jeremy, is I thought, well, you can Google these words, but why don't we put them together into one place? So I've co-written a book called Startup Lexicon. There's a thing there.
Yep.
It's on its second edition now. So it's 280 words and phrases that startups and investors use, everything from accelerated to Web3, all the AI terms in there. And we've got stories by, I think it's 60 or so people giving stories behind some of the definitions. So this is your kind of primer, your buddy to have, when you start that journey. Now, I'm not saying if you're in a meeting and someone says something, you get your book out and say, hold on one moment, look it up.
Yeah.
But if you have a quick scan of that book, this is the feedback I've had from people who've bought it. You just get a feeling for the terms, what they mean, what they don't mean. And it just means that if you are in a meeting, you just feel a bit more relaxed to keep the conversation going. You don't feel like an outsider. So it's a small thing, but it makes a huge difference. So I co-wrote this book with a guy, good friend of mine, Eamon Carey, and we're into the second edition. There's already new words coming in. And it's just a way for first time entrepreneurs who have never done it before, obviously first time, to actually have an idea of this new language that's coming up. So the other expense on the R, the E, the A, the C, and the T, apart from whatever it will be to register a company, I think it's about £10 on Amazon. It might be a good
Yeah.
purchase, slightly biased, but it does mean that if you have a quick, it's not an A to Z. It's not like sit there at night and read it through. It's not, it's not that interesting, but it's quite good to flick through and think, oh, I heard someone say that the other day. Oh, that's interesting. I read that the other day. I know what it means now. And all of a sudden you're getting confidence that you can be in a meeting and say, oh no, I've got a burn mate of this. And oh, you're going to do that. I didn't know. How's that working? And you look more credible. And dare I say, you feel more credible. So it's a small little
Yeah.
touch, but I've had a few founders now who have stopped and gone back. Not my clients. This is founders I work with who have stopped and said, oh, I stopped because I was bamboozled. So
Yeah.
that's why I wrote the
Right.
book.
Okay. So we've been through the whole R.E.A.C.T
Yes.
model. I'm now in business. Is that it? What happens next? Because there must be a lot that comes after the model.
Yeah. So without going into the detail of the workshops, I run workshops for my clients to take them from 0 to 1. And at the end of, if they go through all the workshops, there's 3 of them. At the end of the 3rd workshop, they've got everything we discussed, and they've also got a pitch deck, and they've got more of a tangible brand, I would argue. So they've got assets they can send to people. They may have got a logo designed and all this kind of thing. Once you go past that, then to a certain extent, I'm not saying my job's done, goodbye, but they're now, depending on if they're in their day job still, they're now ready to trade to whatever extent or speed they want to. So what I offer to some clients is a monthly check-in, because they've got work and day jobs. So I say, look, if you want, then we can have a monthly check-in to see how things are going. But what I always offer all my clients after that last workshop, if you want to call it that, it's not entitled the last workshop, but let's say it is the last workshop. I'm always kind of there to help. So I'm a bit of a connector by heart. So if I'm out somewhere and I meet someone who one of my clients should speak to, I generally make introductions, just normally free of charge to people, just to help people along. So even though working through the workshops gives a client everything they need to start trading, if they want a more structured support, I do monthly follow-ups. But I'm generally in touch with most of my clients anyway, saying you should come to this event, or I met someone you should talk to. So I never quite stop connecting with the client. But in terms of what I offer, it's really the support, the workshops, and if they want an ongoing monthly catch up. But if not, they've got everything from the last workshop that they can trade. And it really depends where they want to take it. So far, no one's phoned me up and said it's going really badly. I think it's more a case of, just phoning up for some advice. I get things sent through to me from clients saying, what do you think of this? And I just give some views on it. So my view is I've just made that person go from 0 to 1. I know I'm not trying to underplay it, but once you get past 1, I don't think you look back. And as someone asked me the other day, of all the people you've worked with who left the corporate world and started their own business, how many have gone back? And I think I can name 1, maybe 2. So I think
Yeah.
once you taste that freedom, it's not easy, but once you taste that freedom, I think you make it work in a way. And that's easier said than done, but you do the best you can to make it work. And I think you just
Ken,
don't, you know.
Ken, what have you learned about yourself? So 10 years ago, you broke out and you did
Yep.
this. I guess you're a different person now to the person you look back at when you were in the corporate world. What's changed for you? What do you think is different?
I would argue, I think I'm more, if I'm honest, I'm more confident now than what I was when I was in the corporate world. I was confident enough to hold the job down and the title down, but I think now I'm more confident to try new things. I'm more confident to give something a go. I just have a bit more time now, and I think I make better decisions now. One, because I just have a bit more time to think about it. So I'm not rushing from one meeting to the next and emails, overflowing every day in the office. So I make better decisions, but I also think that there's something quite liberating about steering your own ship. Be it sometimes it goes through rough waters and sometimes it's clear and things are good, but I'm actually more resilient maybe now than I was before. I think looking back at myself before, even though on the outside I would have seemed quite a solid leader doing well, I think really I was quite beaten up and quite what's the word for it? Quite vulnerable, I'd say, actually, in a way.
Right. Yeah. 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 I've
Compared
been there.
to
I know what it
now,
feels like. Yeah.
yeah, compared to now where, you make a decision, it's maybe not quite right, and you think, well, I'm going to change. And you can do that as quickly as you want. Whereas in the corporate world, a friend of mine was saying the other day who's in the corporate world, a bad decision's made, but you go over it for 12 months. So you're sitting there doing something behind something you don't really believe in. Everyone knows it's bad for you, but because of a bad thing and because of politics and just life in the corporate world, you stay on doing it. And that must be very demoralizing. But I kind of got through that and didn't see it until the end. And that's when I decided to jump. So I think I'm just more confident. I think I'm a better decision maker and I'm more resilient now.
So you can, or anybody who's watching or listening can download your React model from buildyouredge.org/downloads. So naturally, we would encourage people to go download it and have a good look at it. But beyond that, if there's one thing that someone who's listened to this and listened to you and thought, you know what, that kind of sounds a bit like me. I'm a bit, a bit tired in my job and I've got this little idea that I'd like to explore. If there's one thing that person should do today, what should they do?
Okay, I would suggest if they're thinking like that, I would say this, but just connect up with me on LinkedIn and say, have you got 15 minutes just to discuss where I am? I'm not going to sell anything. I'm not going to get out a pitch deck. I'm not going to show you my workshops and what it's all about. I'm just going to listen and give you a view. And if that helps, fantastic. And we want to work together, great. If not, I don't mind just helping people with 15, 20 minutes, just to give them a reassurance that they could go forward with this. So just reach out. Don't worry. I get it. Quite a lot of people get in touch with me saying, "We've got 15 minutes," and I listen to their idea. And some will say, "Let's work together." Some will say, "I'm going to park it for a bit," but I really appreciate you just reassuring me that I'm not going mad. So reach out, I would
So
say.
that sounds like, I mean, this whole thing I think is about getting some inertia, actually doing something. And that sounds like a really tiny, small, easy baby step
Yeah.
just to start that little journey.
But I do a talk called The Great Escape, which is all about what we've been talking about. So I do talks to groups of people about it. And the phrase I like the most, which kind of reinforces what you just said, is, I think it's a Mark Twain phrase, which is the secret to getting ahead is getting started.
Mm-hmm.
And I just say, just get started. And it doesn't have to be, I've got to have a business by the end of the day. It just could be, I'm going to either have a chat with a colleague or friend about this or give Ken a call. It's just getting started. And that is the biggest, everyone always says the first step is the hardest, but I do think when you're in a big job, when you get a few moments of question in your life and then you go back to the job again, I think trying to break free from that for a couple of minutes and say, I'm going to actually put 15 minutes and have a chat with Ken or have a chat with someone I trust about this idea that's inside and I can't get rid of it. That is the first big step. Just do that. It doesn't cost anything apart from time.
And you're not committed to anything either, are you? You've not like burnt your bridges. You're just literally having a little chat to kind of go, let me explore it. And then you can make some decisions about what to do next.
Yeah, I've got clients who I know will not start earning, if they're, with a fair wind, will not start earning revenue for 6 months to a year, but they're
Yep.
building a business on the side. They're really enjoying it. It helps them get through their day job because they've got this little burning thing they're playing with, and they're really looking forward to launching at a time that's right for them. They're still getting their money, so they're fine. I've got other clients who are chomping at the bit to get going. They want to launch. They want to get their first bit of money in for what they're doing, and they're really off. All I say is there's no right timing. It's just do what's right for you. What I leave people with, if they work with me, is the levers to pull to build and hopefully grow a business.
Yeah.
Whether they pull them straight away or pull them vigorously or whatever it may be, or now and then, is down to them. But the hardest thing is actually finessing your idea, getting it out from the back of your head into something tangible, and then having the tools in front of you to press, pull, whatever you want to say, at a time that's right for you. But
Fabulous.
if you just sit there with it in your head,
Yeah.
you're one of my friends who I know very well, and he won't know I'm talking about him on this, who every single New Year's Eve, as we come up to New Year's now, will say, I've got to leave my job this year.
This year, it's this year. This is the year I'm going to do it. Watch me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure that is said after a couple of Prosecco's or whatever it is on New Year's Eve by lots of people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, just be realistic. And the first thing is a chat really with someone.
Fabulous, Ken. Thank you so much indeed. This is really helpful. I can imagine, I think a load of people have got an idea for something in their head. It might be that book they've always said they're going to write. It might be that business. It might even just be like a trip or something they're going to go and do. And all of the time that it just sits in the head, it's wasted. And so if someone is sat in a job and, especially if you're a senior leader, it's pretty tough and pretty lonely and pretty grimy at times. And if you're fed up with that, and if you've got a little bit of an idea and you think there must be something better, they owe it to themselves to just at least begin to explore it and see. And they might find out that they haven't got what it takes, or that the idea they've got, just isn't going to work or whatever. They might just, but at least they've explored it and they've found that out. But there is a real risk that actually they might find that it's a good idea and that actually they can do it.
Well,
and go forward in time, some months, some years, whatever, and suddenly they're in business and they're doing it and they're really happy.
Well, let me leave your listeners with, or viewers with a thought. So there's a metric I use called the Sunday metric. And when I was in the corporate world, my Sundays, usually Saturdays, I reset, spent time with the children, convinced myself that life was okay. But my Sundays, from say 12 o'clock onwards, I started to mentally think about the work and the week ahead. I started to dread the meetings that were coming up. I started to think, how am I going to get around that person to get the nod in the meeting on Thursday? If I don't get that nod, I'm going to lose my budget here. All this stuff. So while I'm there with the children, with my wife, out on a family do, I'm kind of 50% in the office. And that is very normal for people in a senior position in a corporate role. So if there's I've got empathy of people out there who are facing that. What I now have as a Sunday, and my life's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but on a Sunday now, I can guarantee in the last 11 years, there's always, yes, there are meetings or there are things that I've got to do. Maybe it's some admin, some accountancy stuff, whatever. But there's always 3, 4, 5 really good things I'm looking forward to. So my Sundays are spending more time in the present. And then as it gets to the end of the day and you start thinking a bit about the week ahead, the first things that come into my mind are, yes, I've got that really good meeting coming up on Tuesday. Yeah, I'm going to that event. Yeah, I've got this podcast with Jeremy, all that stuff. And and I've got to do that stuff for the accountant. But generally, the net is very positive into how I look at the week ahead. So my Sunday is an extra day of the weekend for me now. Whereas for a lot of corporate people, Sunday is the start of the week ahead mentally, I'd argue.
Yeah.
So if sounds a familiar Sunday to you and you've always wanted to break free and do your own thing, then please just reach out and, I can at least be a pair of ears to listen to your idea and hopefully give you some guidance.
Well, I really hope that we've inspired some people listening today to take that first step. Thank you, Ken. I thank everybody who comes on for not just being here, but also the prep. Your model is great. Thank you very much for working hard for me to get this done. If you're watching or listening and you feel a little bit moved or a little bit inspired by this, please go download it from buildyouredge.org/downloads. You can find connection details for Ken on our website and also on the comments below in this website. In this podcast. Don't just sit on it, go do something with it. So Ken, enormously, thank you so much indeed for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Great stuff. And we'll see you next time on Build Your Edge.